Hello guys, today we are going to cover GraphQL in much more detail. Daniel will cover mutation and other details related to the GraphQL, and we are going to understand in GraphQL further. Last week we have covered GraphQL at the basic level. We have seen how REST API work, and then we have seen how we will be using GraphQL according to how we were using REST API. So we have seen that point of view, and now we'll cover in more detail. And Daniel is going to cover you further. Daniel, over to you.
Hello, everybody. Uh, yes, today we will cover GraphQL. In the last class, we have covered queries. Yes, sir. We have covered queries to get the data. Am I right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So let's 5 to 10 minutes. We just recall what we did in last class. I just share my screen. I just create the first queries. Then the agenda and the purpose of today's class, we will cover mutation. So what we need to do, we will how to create, how to add data, how to update data, how to delete data. That all things we will cover today using mutation, because last class we just did queries to get the data. So but now today we will cover that all the things. If then we have some time at the end, then we will check the code generator and other things. So let's share my screen first. Here is we have mm, yes, can you see my screen?
It's loading. Yes, can we can see now.
Perfect. So as you all guys knows about GraphQL now, because Sir Zeeshan in much detail in the last class explained about GraphQL. So we have multiple benefits of GraphQL, and also this GraphQL is right now a new standard way to deal with APIs. Before that we have REST APIs. Now we have the GraphQL. And GraphQL, so many questions I noticed, so many comments on last session. I noticed there is a few students was asking about what is GraphQL, this is database or not. No, it's not a GraphQL, it's not a database, it's not a, it's basically a query language. What data you want, you just write the query and get it, nothing else. And so many benefits of GraphQL, like it expose a single endpoint. And as Sir Dishan in the last class showed, REST API server, there is multiple endpoints, multiple URLs you can say. If you have to add data, you have another endpoint or URL to add the data. If you want to get data, so definitely you need to create the another endpoint for get data. If you want update data, so definitely you need to create another endpoint. So there is a lot of endpoints in REST API architecture. So right now GraphQL makes the developer life easy, and in every aspects, if I think, and I just any developer think about GraphQL and compare with REST API architecture, so in all aspects GraphQL is best. So let's start with queries and mutation. In last class, you guys have already familiar with this type of queries. So whenever we, what it means basically, if you just think about this object, so this is just an object, or you can say a query. So the object type is hero, and this field, this name, and so on, first name, last name, this all are fields of this type object, and the name is hero. This schema basically, the type object name is hero. So
Daniel,
when
can you please increase the resolution or the size of page?
I have shared the full screen.
No, I mean it's quite small, so you have to increase the
Is it
size.
now?
Yes, bit more. Yes,
Okay,
yes, that's good.
perfect. So that is all about this GraphQL queries and mutations. So let's start with coding. So then you can understand better. But just one thing you guys remember, whenever you want to get the data from database, so you need to query it. And if you want to edit the data, if you want to add the data, if you want to delete the data, so you need mutation. Query is for getting the data, and mutation is for edit, update, edit, add, or delete. So now the target is uh, first I just create the query, and then I will create the mutation, both side, on Apollo server and on Apollo client, because Apollo client is nothing without Apollo server. If you don't have the data, if you don't have the schema on server, so what you will get? So definitely you need to learn as well Apollo server. Okay, so let's start with first mutations or first queries. Okay, let me share the code. What we do, I just create the new project, then I show you. Just give me a second. First, I create the folder of GraphQL server. I'm creating both for server and client. First, then start coding. From npm init, we just create the structure of the project. So package name, version, everything I'm just defining here. Here is a client and here is a server. From npm init, you can see I have the package or JSON file for the server. Now I will install Apollo server. Apollo server. This is simple command, and you can install with yarn and also with npm. It's installing a Apollo server. Also, I'm going on Apollo website. Here is, you can see, get started with Apollo server. Here is the command Apollo server and GraphQL. So you can also do both together. and step by step. So I just did Apollo server. Now I'm doing GraphQL. Both is done. You can see here is I have Apollo server and GraphQL in package.json. This is basically the dependencies. Here I just create the file in dex.js for the server. The server is very important to you guys as well. You don't think later we will learn server? Definitely we will learn, but for the GraphQL, if you are using Apollo client, so definitely you need Apollo server as well. Otherwise, from where you will get the data, or how you will learn the schema and everything. So here I just creating the schema folder. About the schema, about the resolver, Sir Zishan has already uh, brief in the last class. So right now I'm just creating the schema and then resolvers. It's the name is just give me a second. Schema. Here I just requiring from Apollo server. As Sir Zishan in the last class explained about GQL as well, basically GraphQL. So here we define the schemas in this GraphQL and then just export it. So whatever you have the schema, you just create the schema type here. So first I just create the query for the query type.
Daniel, can you please zoom in the code?
Yes, sure. Is it okay now? Perfect.
Yes.
Whatever you want according to your project, according to your application, you just create the schema here. And as I mentioned about the queries and mutation, so first also I just create I will create the queries. Once I just complete this mutation, then I will create the query as well. Just a simple query. So now what it means, schema in the schema.js, you can see here I just write type query and get message. So what is this? This is basically what I will do in the resolver. So whatever the name I will call here in the query, same name I will provide in the resolver to get the data, to get this schema as well. So now I'm moving on resolver. First creating the resolver folder, then I will uh, write the code of resolver. Here I will define the resolvers. So in the last class, Sir Zishan did queries. So Sir Zishan mentioned it here. Queries like that. In the query, we will define the queries. In the mutation, we will call the mutations. So now what I am doing here, I just create the schema of query for this get message. Okay. Here you can also write get message. You can write it here get name, whatever you want according to your schema, and then you will call it in the resolver to resolve it. And as Satyashan already mentioned in last class, it's we will call it here the function. We are just returning it hello world, nothing else. And right now we don't need it. Argument is here as well. I will also explain the arguments in a bit.
I guess spelling of query has some spelling mistake.
Yes, yes, yes. It's queries, I think.
No, only query. Q same as it you mentioned in schema.
Where?
Yeah,
Just
type
give me a
query.
second. Oh, yeah, you are saying about the E.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Yes. Oh, okay. Thank you. Now I'm in here in the server file. New Apollo server. We will call the instance. We are requiring it from Apollo server, and also import the schema is here. Once I create it, then I will explain it as well. Schema and resolver both are importing in the server file. Also, you guys can make it in one file, but it's a good practice if you split the code in multiple files. In the earlier classes, students have already learned the advanced JavaScript as well. Yes, sir.
Sorry, come again.
Advanced JavaScript.
Yes.
They has already done it. All the students.
What? Uh,
No,
arrow function
this
you are
boot.
talking about?
Yes, when the bootcamp is started, the advanced JavaScript you taught it.
You are talking about arrow function. So yes, they learned arrow function.
Perfect, perfect. This code is also available in the Apollo website, so don't worry about that. But I'm just creating it from scratch and writing the code as well. Once it's done, I will explain it. Let's try to run it and see everything is okay or not. In package.json, yes, you guys also see here. Definitely, whenever you run the React project, whenever you run the any project, so in package.json we have the scripts. So here in script we define the scripts, how to run, how to test, how to build the project. So here is we can do the start as well and server as well. Okay, so I hope this line you guys can understand. And also in React, if you go in the React project, I just go back and show you, because React project it's created from the CLI by npx the complete boilerplate. So that's why you did not need to add the script here. But you can see here, you can see start and React scripts start. So same for script build, for test, for eject. Here is you can see the scripts. So same thing I did to run the project in server. Here is my package.json file. Yes, here is server I write. And what I did, I whenever I read the server npm server, so it will run this command, node index.js. And index.js is what we have, this server file index.js. Also, what I want to show you, I want to I just want to say and to inform you, whenever you made the changes in schema, in resolver, whenever a single line you change. So let's first start and then I will show what I want. So I just run it and access it from our browser. Localhost 4000, the port is running. Here you can see GraphQL playground we have. So this is my old queries and mutations. I just comment it out and created here. First one. First I create the query. What was the field there? Get message. And just run it. You guys can see here is the data I'm getting. Hello world. So same thing you will do, because this server is providing me the sandbox environment, the playground environment. So you can test your server queries or mutation or subscription, anything on this playground. If this is working perfectly, then you just go back into your React project and install the Apollo client and create the queries and mutation there. So today we will also cover React Apollo client for the mutation and queries as well. So you can see here Apollo server, one schema what I write for get message, and this query I write in playground and getting the data here. So now what I want to show you one more thing. If I change this hello world from Pana Cloud. Okay, so just give me the answer on comments section. I will execute it. So what will be the data here? Hello world from Pana Cloud or hello world? Just think about it. Okay, let's run it. You can see the data is same hello world. Why? The reason is our server is running, but it is not detecting the changes. What I'm doing here, it is not detecting the any change. So what I need to rewrite restart the server. Then I will go back and execute it. Then you can see. So for this, just one thing, uh, one dependency I want to inform you, that is nodemon. That is nodemon. So nodemon, will do, what will do? It will change. It will detect the life changes. What we do in the code. So I just add one more dependency, nodemon, and then let's run with nodemon. So now here is I have another question again. Uh, if I run it, the server yarn server, and then I will change it here, hello 1111, and save it. So what will be the change here? The change will implement or not? No, no any change. Why? Because we need to configure the node one as well in the script file. As in package.json, I showed you the script file. So here we also need to update our script. So now what I did, I installed the nodemon. Before I was running the file with node. Now I'm running this file with nodemon. This is important thing because otherwise when you will practice you need to restart the server again and again. Internal system limit for number of file watcher rs extension. uh, why wow, the permission issues, oh god. Okay, so that was not running just because of permission. So when I run it with sudo, but windows user don't run with sudo. Sudo is in just mac or linux. This all permission issues happens in linux and mac. So okay guys, I have write the graphql server, apollo server, from scratch. I just create the schema, very simple schema, leave it this everything, create message, mutation, everything. What I did, I just create the schema for get message and get name, and whenever we need to get the data, so we need to write the schema query in query type. So here is we have get message same as get name. So and whenever we need to call it, we need to resolve it. So in the resolver, I will just go, and here same as I did with get message, I will do with get name, and just return it. Return it. What I can do? Daniel, get name. Daniel. Nogori. Okay, let's save it. And what? Okay, now I just save it as well here, and just write the query here. Get name. You can see fail to fetch. Please check your connection. The connection issue. Yes, you can see here. You guys can see here. The error is query.get names defined in resolver but not in schema. What I mentioned earlier, whatever the query in schema you give the name, same name you will provide in resolver. Same name you will provide in resolver. So here is get names, and in the query, here is get name. If I provide it as here or remove it as here, so in both cases it will work. So just mutation defined in resolver but not in schema. Mutation. Okay, okay, okay. Here is okay. I just commented out. That is why it was happening. So here you can see the get name error is out, and now I'm going back in the playground and just run it. You can see Daniyal Nogori. So, sir, what you will suggest before moving on Apollo client to get the query or to implement the query, or I will create the mutation from here in the server.
I guess do for the mutation
Do for
on server.
mutation. Perfect. Okay. So right now, let's back to our schema and create the mutation. So what I am doing, I just want to add the data. I just want to create data in add data in database. So right now we are not using database. So we will create our fake database with the local static data, local variables. So first I just create the type, create message type, and just providing message field. Now we have the input as well. What we need to send it. So message input. Once I do it, then I will explain it as well. Message type, yes. Okay, message type. Same thing as we did for query. Definitely, we need to mutation, and in mutation, I write the create message, and then I will go in resolver. Just create the resolver. Then I will explain it schema again. I think yes, I need to create the object here, local data.
For students, I just need to add that as we are not using database or any data storage service, so what Daniel is doing is he has created the variable which will stay in the server, so it will be the local data, so that whenever we do the mutation work, we will be updating the local data object, so it feels like that it is updating data on the server.
Exactly. For the random IDs, I'm using this module, crypto. Unexpected expected name found.
Um, at what line?
I think expected name.
What it's returning? It's returning a message. Do we
Yes.
have message type?
Yes, it's yeah.
And you are not returning from the function in resolver.
No, 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 no. That was not the issue, I think. Where it is? I think it is getting here in the schema. Just convert it out. From where? It is not in. It is not
Basically,
getting.
at what line? What line it is showing? I am unable to see the line number in error.
Syntax error. I think there is some curly braces missing. I'm just
Okay.
checking from where. What
The contact.
the contact get token. Where get token? What I did? I just commit out everything. I think the mistake is. Let me check again. Mutation message message. But there is everything okay. Put on message type. Yes. What is wrong? Oh God, I think that was the mistake. Okay, they actually just added the column by mistake. So okay, let's forward it. For the random ID, definitely we will add the data. So with IDs, for the random IDs or unique IDs, I'm using crypto module. Let's console the ID first. Let's just console this data. If it's working well, then we move forward. Now let's try with mutation. As we did query, same thing we will do mutation, create message. Let's try with input what we need, what we define in schema. I think I mistaken the spelling. Yes, message. Perfect. Okay, you can see it's unnamed, unnamed. So I can also give the name here, create data, and also get data. We can define the name here, return it first. Perfect. Create message, but it's null. Let us check. Yes, the issue is with ID. I think two string, yes. The method is two string. Let's try now. Create data. And let me check. Here is we have the crypto that random ID is 10 dot two string. What is missing? Values, right? I think give me a second. Just remove it. We need to convert in UTF-8. Let's try now. What is this ID? Still random bytes 10 and dot two string. If it don't work, then I will create my random ID, static ID. But let's just try once again. Should be this. Two string UTF-8. It should return it. What is this? Okay, let's create any ID for now. Mm, Moving back to the playground, create data. Here is ID 123. Perfect. Now back to the. Let's try with one more time. Then we will uh, call the 123 ID. UTF-8 is not working. I just recall the hex as well. If it works, then what is this?
You are not storing an ID variable.
Yes, 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 yes. Now let's check. Create data. Hush. Perfect. And with hex, it's working. Fine. Okay, now moving forward.
For a student crypto module, Daniel has just used it. It's just to we have used it to generate a random ID. It can create an hash. So we are using just for the random ID. Yeah, we can use UID, and there can be many other options. There is a module called short ID. There can be many options. So you can use whatever you like or whatever it's easy for you. So at this moment, Daniel is used crypto.
Yes. Okay. Now we have input message test. What I pass it from here. Yes. Here is I have input dot messages. Now let's try again.
Why would you do spread operator on it?
for the concatenations, because I will add multiple times the data.
Okay.
All is not defined. Yes, okay. Here is I have the orbs. Let's save it. Run it. Perfect. So guys, yes, it's done. It's done. Live coding is always a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's good.
So, can you explain what this four lines are doing?
Let me explain it. What I did basically, and first of all, in schema, I define the schema first. What I did, I just create the, as you know about the, we have already talking multiple times about the schema. So whatever you want, right now I have a message type object, and then I create the input. So what multiple times same thing. If I want to get in the mutation or in the updation or in the add data or in the added data. So I just create the input as well. It's also a type in GraphQL. So the field I explain it here in the input, what I will send, that is message. And I have a object of message type schema. So in the mutation, whatever the name you want, you can create, write it here, create message or create messages according to your application or according to your requirements. So what I did here, as an argument, I take the input, and what I call it here, the type is what I explained above. I created above message type, and what I'm returning, I want to send the message type. In this mutation, I want to return the data message type. So just in the message type, I have one field. I can also do it here, message type, this message and text, whatever you want, you can make it here. So then I resolve it in the resolver, same as I did in query, same thing. Again, I create the mutation, and in the mutation we resolve our mutations. So same. First underscore Apollo server on the official documentation, you can see there, it says first argument should be underscore, and in second argument, whatever the data you are passing from query from mutation, so destructure it. So I just take it input here, and in the random id, because as I said, I'm generating the random id because I have multiple types of data. I just call it here the input, and the object is message, the properties is message. So input dot message, and spread operator why I'm using, because I want to concatenate it, because for the multiple times I will add the data, just because differentiating for the updation as well. So here is I have id, and here is I have the message. So and then simple return it id and input as well. So same thing, you guys can see here, query and text create. I'm just changing the data message as well here, message Daniyal Nogori. So I will get the message, you can see here. So what is doing here right now, we are basically uh, creating the data or adding the data in database. Right now we don't have the database, so I'm just creating it in local variable or static data. If you have the database, so what you will do, nothing complex. Let's suppose you have the MongoDB or whatever the database, you will just uh, uh, create the connection of MongoDB here and write the logic here of your database. As I'm storing it in local variables, same thing you will save it in your database, nothing
So
much.
you are saying that from the client Apollo
Hmm.
client, user will call create message in the mutation. User will
Yes,
send call
yes,
message
yes,
for
yes, yes, yes.
create message, and the data. That data
Exactly.
will arise in input. So input will be filled with the data from the client, and the next four lines are creating an object and storing in a local data variable. Am I right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
So I will also do this right now. We are creating the mutation and playing with playground of this Apollo server. I will also create the mutation from Apollo client in React application.
Okay. Let's move to the client.
Yes. Yes. Now let's move to the client. I'm running client side as well. I think in the client folder. Yes. It's client. Yeah. Start. Yes. I just go back to the official documentation. Apollo client GraphQL, I think so. Oh, why it's not working? I think it's Apollo client. No, Apollo client. It's the official documentation of Apollo GraphQL. Where is get started? Here you can see yes, Apollo client GraphQL. So let's add this package, not this one. Sudo client and sudo to install Apollo client first. Once it's complete, then I will. Okay, let's start with the client side. Here is we have the client folder. Here we will put our config. Here is we have Apollo client. It's installing, but let me try Apollo client. That is why intelligence is not coming. Here is we will pass the URI. That is, we can have the deployed server link right now we have locally. It's running in localhost 4000. So we will just provide this address to the client. And second thing is in cache memory. I just exported. We can also do this configuration in any component in a app.js component, but the best practice is we always split the code and separated config environment variables with components. Hopefully Apollo client is installed now. Let me also check. Hanging. Oh, StreamYard is too heavy or what? What is this?
Yes, installation gets too heavy while in StreamYard is working. It
Oh,
will.
I never
Uh,
noticed my system is hang. Right now I'm noticing it. It's too much.
StreamYard consume
Yes,
too much of bandwidth and the
it
processing of your
seems.
machine.
I think we
Just
need
wait a
to
while.
wait.
Just wait a while.
Cursor is working. Keyboard. Why? Okay, now it's okay. Let me check my Apollo. Also close this all the folders and files. It's still installing the library. Once Apollo client is installed, then I will create the mutation here. It's done. Start Apollo client, Apollo provider. Here is you have the provider and an Apollo provider. We will call our components. In the last class, you have already explained it. Here we
Yes.
will call the config in this attribute client from config. Yes, it's GPL config here.
You config as a folder or a file.
It's a file. Oh, okay. You are right.
Okay, it's indexed your JS,
Okay,
so
it's
don't.
index. Okay, no need. Yes, it's index.js. I was also confused. What? Yeah, it's a folder. Just now create another folder for the GraphQL. Import GQL from Apollo client. Create message. Once I write it, then I will explain it. Same thing as you did in last class for the query. I'm doing it with for mutation. I just copy. What is this? Yes. What I am returning message and ID. Export. Create mutation. Same as you did in last class for uh, queries. Also, I'm mentioning here the query. Later, I will create for single. Right now, it's enough, I think. Let's just run it, then I will explain again. You guys did this work a lot, not with the development, but in the websites. Whenever you go into the any application, first you have the fields. So here I'm just creating the field to store the data. As you guys know about create reference and everything because you have already learned React. Getting a message value. Same thing. We have the hooks from Apollo client. Last time Zeeshan used query hook. Right now I'm using use mutation. Importing the schema, query, mutation, everything. Here we will call our mutation and use mutation hook.
The used mutation is provided by the Apollo client. It's in a
Yes,
hook,
Apollo. Exactly, yes.
and whenever we
Same,
want
but
to call the
use a
mutation
query.
to the
Sorry.
okay. So whenever we want to call the mutation to Apollo server, we need to use mutation hook and
Exactly,
provide
yes.
the
Exactly, yes.
mutation query into it.
Exactly. Same, if you want to query, so you need to use the hook, use query. This is simple. I'm just creating also the React application to submit the data.
Why this curly bracket variable data message?
Where
Uh,
just store it. I will store in this structure. The data I will provide there as dollar data in the mutation.
so whatever input we are sending, we need to create an object and we need a variable keyword to send the data.
Exactly, yes. Exactly, yes. Also, I will explain it. Just I complete the uh, application. I will also explain it. As you guys know about, when it's resolved, you will get the data, and then if it's reject, you will get the error in catch. Just call that method submit. Without checking, write the code. Now it's time to check it. How many errors? I will explain it once it's run. Then I will explain it. Before that, it's useless. Okay, let's try to run. Let's check. Oh God, what is this? Limit for number of file watchers reached. I think the issue is this. Uh, let's try with sudo. Sudo is always with me. This sudo, but it's good for the security perspective. It's okay. It's working. Now let's run the React application. Also inspect element, console open, and just add localhost 4000. Why? Response not successful. Receive status port 100.
I guess the server is the server is on this port running. Server is running on this port.
Let me check. Let me check. Service is running, yes, on the same port.
on 4,000.
On 4,000, yes.
And you have mentioned that code in the
4,000.
client.
Yes, here
Okay.
HTTP local
Local.
of 4,000.
Okay. Let's go for
This
it again in the network.
an app don't use follow. There is I have client uploading app. There is add message use mutation. Let's try with
No, we need to see the. It's only a connection problem. So go to the client again, and what it says when
it
you
is the
hit the
same
call.
category. Yes, bad request. Status
So
support
your
until
request is not correct. Your request sending processes has some issue, I guess.
hmm.
Increase the size, maybe.
Let me check again. Let me check.
It's a server. You need to see on client. Oh, I think go back to the client code.
In config,
In the schema where you have created the schema.
hmm.
So you have mentioned message input, and message input is not defined, I guess. And message input is a data type,
Hmm. It's a data type. Yes.
so it's not defined here.
Let me check it. Message type. No, that is
You have
not
defined
the.
it on the server, but
That is
not here.
the issue. That is not the issue. That is not the issue.
Hmm.
The issue is another. The
Okay.
issue is. Let me check the playground.
Yes.
Check the playground. That is working. Okay, let's just call the get messages.
Okay.
Check the get messages. Same in the last class you used the hook use query.
Okay. So this is what we have used the last
Yes,
class.
exactly.
For the data error and loading, at this moment we are using query, the simple query, so that we can see if the message is working right or not.
Hmm.
Connection with the server is working fine or not.
Let's try. Just create the query again. Another one. Now I'm just putting the local data, static data.
Change the ID.
Hmm. Use query is called in function. Uh, the issue is another, not this query and mutation.
That's what I was saying. That this is a connection problem. It's not about the.
The connection problem, why? Everything is okay.
It's saying bad request. So the sending the request style is has some problem.
Nothing. What is wrong there?
Just
Just
go.
configure here with this in this variable new client URI and HTTP localhost 4000 cache. Just export it and in app.js or
So
in
the real
index.js.
problem is the real problem.
What is
Is it
wrong?
really, is it really returning the config really returning the client GQL
Yes,
config?
exactly. Yes.
Okay, go back again in the app.js.
Let me check it here.
You can remove this name get all message. It works fine.
One more thing, I just try.
Oh yes.
Hmm. Oh God,
Okay, so that's
you
same thing you
guys.
need to change for mutation.
Exactly. Yes, yes, yes. You guys can see the live coding, guys. Is I can also write the code. I have already. I did this code before this class, but the live coding is a
that's
challenge.
always that's always a pressure point.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Too much. Too much.
Okay, so
Here in mutation. But
create message.
get all messages. That is why it's not working. Message type, message input, get mutation. Message, message value dot current. That is all okay. Message data, message. Mm, I will also create the consoles here to debug it. Let's try it once more. Perfect. Wow. Oh, guys. Perfect.
Works fine.
With mutation, I did nothing.
Okay.
With mutation, I did nothing, but with a query, definitely there was a problem with the schema.
Okay, so it's working
So
fine now.
it's working fine now. Perfect.
let's explain the server and client again, because there were a lot of
Then
do's and don'ts. So we need to.
100%. 100%. Yes, just give me a second. I explain it again. Here is we have the client. Here is we have the server. Yes. So basically, what I did, first of all, I just check it again. It's okay. Add. Perfect. Now I just reload it, and here I'm just getting Daniyal Nogori, adding. Perfect. So guys, with the mutation, you can add data anywhere you want in database. Right now we have the fake database or a fake just local variable. I just create it and store it in local variables. So what I did, I explained it from scratch. What I did, I first create the schema. I have already explained it, the schema of add message, and just with schema definitely we need in GraphQL to resolve every type we need to resolve it, what we want in query, what we want in mutation. So definitely we need to call it in resolvers, and in resolver we have the mutation, and in mutation I did the same schema, object type, create messages, and this code I have already explained it. Then I move in, then I run this code with a playground that was working perfectly. Then I move in our application, React application, and here, first of all, definitely we need to create the connection. So here is the config to create the connection. Apollo client, you will import it from Apollo client. The name is also Apollo client, and just create the instance and pass the URI and cache, and just export it this config and call it or import it here in index.js. Here you can see again, definitely every query or mutation we will call in the provider, Apollo provider. So here is, you can see the Apollo provider from Apollo client. Again we are importing Apollo provider, and here we call our components. Right now I'm using the app component, the root component as well. So here is our app component, and here what I did, here I create the mutation, or for to create the data in our server, or add the data in server. So here you guys can see, first of all we have use mutation, and in this use mutation what I passed, create message mutation. So from where we are getting this create uh, message mutation, I also write this code here. But as I said again and again, the best practice is you always split your code in multiple files and multiple components as you can. So right now I'm moving in our create message mutation. Here I have the queries, here is I have the mutation, everything. So here you can also write the name of a GraphQL schema for client side.
So we have created the mutation create message dollar data. So that's where data comes in, and it will
Exactly.
pass the create message object, and the curly bracket says that the message and ID will be returned from the server.
Yes, whatever the data we want, we can return it according to the schema. According to the schema, if I will go back in schema and I write the name, first name in the response, or last name in the response, so definitely we can get it from here. So this is create message I will call, and the create message we have in in the server. Then I will just create the query for this mutation. Basically, this is the mutation. So then what I did, I go back again in app.js, and in use mutation, I just pass it as same I did with query, use query hook. So in this use mutation, we will get the message. In array destructuring, we will get this add message, the function, and
Will
also you
be
can
a
say
function, we can name it anything. So we have named it
yes,
add
yes, yes,
message. Actually, we'll be
exactly,
receiving a function.
exactly. We are receiving the function. A function we are receiving it, and we just call the function here, and with the variables, and here we have the object according to our schema. Here is we are getting the message, and the property is data, and here in the response, that is why I'm getting here. You guys can see the response data, create message, and the ID and message we are returning. If I will go back here and I just write it here, ID, first name, but it should be also in our schema in server. So we will get here accordingly. Right now it will not work because it's not in the schema in server. So that is we have the query and that is we have the mutation. So whenever we need to add data in our database, so definitely we need to use mutation. Whenever we get the data, as you can see here, get all messages, so we need to call the query. So how we all the query and mutation, that is all I have done today. And also we don't have the time, otherwise I will also do updation.
Okay. So let we'll be extending class for 5 or 7 minutes more. I need to answer few questions so that
Okay.
and to give you the give them the. You are done, right, Daniel?
Yes, yes, perfect, perfect.
So basically, first what you need to understand is GraphQL is not a database query language. GraphQL is not for the database. GraphQL is actually a replacement of an API, a REST API, replacement of, or you can say alternate of REST API. So it's a query language for API. In case of API, what you need to do is you have a URL, you call to that URL, and that URL returns some data. In case of GraphQL, what you can do is you can query your particular data and you can customize that you want so and so. Your query returns 5 properties: name, age, email address, phone number, blood group, or maybe so on. But you need only two things: name and email address. So what you can do is at the time of query, you can, you are actually calling an API because you need to call it on a server. So someone was asking why we need a server. We always need a server, even we are not working with the GraphQL. So we need if we are working with the REST API, we need a server and we need a client. Client talks to the server, and then server talks to the database. In any case, if you want to talk to the database, you need to talk to the server first, unless you are working with the Firebase. That's in a different story, so we are not going over there. In other case, we just need to, client needs to talk to the server, and then server talk to the database. So in this case, GraphQL is a query language for the API. So you are actually calling an API, but you are specifying what you need, and you can also specify multiple APIs in one go. As I have mentioned in the last class, and as you can see in Daniyal's code as well, that we have created the two queries: get message and get name, as Daniyal did. And in my last class, I did users and course. So these are two separate APIs. In case of REST, we will be creating two REST APIs so that they can be individually be called. But sometimes you need to call them together. So in case of REST, you need to call them both in one by one. In case of GraphQL, you will be calling them together. So that's one advantage. Another is it's in a query language and you can customize it. So what you need to understand, you need to create a server, and that server, so at this moment whatever code we have seen, we have written static data because we have not learned database yet. So the server, and we have also not learned the server yet in detail. So the server call to the database, or if server want to talk to any other API server, so the server will go and talk to that API server. So in where will it will happen? It will happen in a resolver. The server we have written, we have talked about the resolver. So we create a schema on the server, and then we create resolver, and the resolver we implement the functions. So at that code, we are returning static data. So what we'll do is we will call the database over there in the resolver, or we will call the any API. So that's what you need to understand, that from the client you need to talk to the server. So you need a client and server will be the Apollo server, or you can do Express Apollo server. There can be multiple things that you can do. Okay, so this thing needs to be clear that GraphQL is an query language for the API, so that you can customize the API first thing first, and you always need a server so that you can talk to the server, and then server talk to anything else. What another question was? I guess this is what really I need to explain it, and yes, I guess that's what really need. Yeah, one more thing. As we had did, query and mutation are two different things. Query is to get the data, and mutation is to update or send data to the server. So to use the query, server did the query, so you have a query on the server and you can call from the client. So for that, we have used in last class and we have used today, use query hook, and it will return multiple information. You can see the API. Same for the mutation, we have use mutation hook. So if you want to get data, you will use query from the React client. If you want to update or add data, you will use mutation. For that, you need to have a mutation on the server and the client as well in the schema. So that you will call so query mutation, and third is a subscription. If we it's exactly like will be the mutation, but the only difference is it will be a real time connection. I guess this is done, and hope to see you guys in next class, and we'll move further in this topic. Thank you,
So
guys.
many students are asking about the code. So I will also share in the comment after the session.
Okay. Okay. If you have created the repo, so you can show here. If you have not,
Yes, I have created, just created.
so show the link of repo so that student can use that repo. Okay. So that's github.com/Daniyal Nogori/mutation dash query dash.
I think. Can you hear me? Hello, sir. Zeeshan connection has lost or mine? I think Sir Zeeshan connection is lost. Okay, guys. So today's session is ended. Hopefully, you have understood the mutation as well. And in the next session, we will definitely create the project. Sir Adil will create the project. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. Bye bye.